So we have started with structures. See, so in yesterday's class, we have gone through how to declare a structure. So this structure definition or structure declaration. In some book, the word declaration is used, and in some book, they are referring structure definition. So it is nothing but defining your structure. Okay. So the syntax for structure. What is structure first? It's a collection of dissimilar data type. Okay. So in short, we can say in simple words, an application of structure is nothing but the data which is represented in the tabular form with different types of fields. So that can be represented using your structure. Okay. So the structure syntax is it is declared using keyword struct and followed by structure name, and then within this pair of curly brackets we are defining structure members which are representing the structure fields. Okay, for example, we have gone through book bank example, and two ways of representing or declaring structure we have seen yesterday and we have discussed. So in that, first is without type def, which is standard representation of structure, but we are using this type def so as to avoid or to create a user defined data type called book. Okay, so in this case, whenever you're using type def, this defining or writing book after the closing bracket of that structure declaration is important, is compulsory. Okay, and that is referred as the data type of structure book bank. Okay, so even this book bank, in some particular cases we need to define the structure name, but here it's not required. Okay, so this is optional whenever you are going for type def, but without type def, the structure name should be there. So the interpretation of that is we are creating a structure type data, okay, with name book bank. Okay, so representation or meaning or interpretation, the size which is required for both these declarations are same. Only the difference is with the help of type def we are creating user defined data type. Okay, and there it is not necessary to use this keyword struct every time you are declaring variables for that structure. Next slide. So if you are using type def, so there is no need to use this struct keyword, and there is no need of that struct book bank every time to declare your variables for structure. I can directly use this book word to declare the variables. No need to mention that book is of type structure. Okay, so that will be automatically interpreted because of this type def, okay, by the compiler, and that is why so your programming will be easier. Okay,
Malad.
Bolo. Any doubt?
No, ma'am.
So this is how we declare the variables for the structure. After that, we have gone through the initialization. Yesterday, I told both these statements are valid. That is declaration and initialization of variable in the same line, and declaring variable and initializing it to the next line. So, but just correct, let me correct this particular statement. So this is not valid. You cannot initialize your structure variable. Once it is defined, you cannot initialize it to any other line. Okay, so you have to initialize that particular variable in the same line. Whenever you are declaring, there itself you need to initialize. So this is not accepted. The reason behind that is your book contains three different members, and all those members we are trying to initialize with this equal to sign, which is not acceptable. It is giving us error. As yesterday Abhi was asking me, that expression is required. So what do you mean by that? Expression is nothing but, so it is asking for which particular member or of that structure you are assigning these values. So that is not clear from this particular statement. Okay, that is not predefined, that how to interpret this initialization, and that is why your compiler cannot understand this statement. Okay, whereas if you are trying to initialize individual member, that is acceptable. If I write something like this and I assign some value here, will accept that value. Okay, so please correct that one. Yesterday that I have discussed that both these declarations are correct, but only this declaration or only this statement for structure initialization is correct. So you'll get error if you try to initialize in some other line. Once it is declared and you're trying to initialize somewhere else in your program, so that will give you error. Whereas individual element can be initialized. For example, you want to initialize the character array. For that particular case, you need to go for string copy. Okay, you cannot use assignment statement. So there we have to write. So title book 2 dot title. So this dot is nothing but it's the operator which is used to access structure members. The identifier that we are using before dot is called as the structure variable, and an identifier that we are using after that dot is one of the structure member. Okay, so this structure member can be initialized to some string by using statements are valid. So like this, you can initialize individual member of a structure. But if we have to initialize all the members of that structure, it should be declared. So this is declaration of variable, and wherever you're declaring, there itself you need to initialize it. Okay. So that correction just discuss with you. And after this, what we have seen is after initialization, how to read and display the structure members. So how to get the values of the structure members through the user, and how to display that one. Okay, for that we have used scanf. So
एक्सक्यूज मी मैम,
yes.
मैम ये जो गेटेस्ट फंक्शन है,
हाँ.
मैंने इसे कल ट्राई किया था। तो जैसे अपन इनपुट में तीनों, मतलब अपने दो स्ट्रिंग्स है ना,
Hmm.
एक टाइटल लाइन, एक ऑथर,
Hmm.
तो वो इनपुट स्किप कर रहा था। मतलब जैसे अगर अपन ने दो गेटेस यूज किए एक के बाद एक,
Hmm. Hmm.
तो उस पहले वाले गेटेस में उसने इनपुट लिया और दूसरा वाला उसने स्किप कर दिया था।
दूसरे वाले में p डॉट ऑथर लिया था.
यस मैम।
It should work. I'll check. We will check this program. Okay, I'll show you and just let
बिकॉज
me
वो
know what
इनपुट स्किप हो रहा था, इसलिए मतलब क्योंकि स्कैनएफ में अपन सिर्फ एक वर्ड ले सकते हैं इनपुट में,
हाँ, और गेटेस में पूरा आपका
पूरा
नाम ले.
लाइन ले सकते हैं, बट वो हो नहीं रहा था, तो वो स्किप कर रहा था।
नहीं, उसके पहले ओके, आई विल चेक योर इटसेल्फ. आई थिंक लेट मी शो यू द प्रोग्राम. इसमें आप बोल रहे हो, हियर आई ट्राई टू रीड दैट वन. ओके, scanf. So enter title, author and price. So instead of scanf, now I'll use getters, and let us see what will happen. Okay, I'll just put here comment, and here
एंड मैम गेटेस में एक वार्निंग भी आता है।
getters में warning तो string dot h एक बार include करके देखना चाहिए.
मैम वो कर लिया
But
था, बट वार्निंग ये आता
basically
है कि प्रोग्राम में यूज करना, उसे मतलब प्रॉपरली यूज नहीं होगा, वो ऐसा करके कुछ
okay.
एग्जैक्टली याद नहीं है।
ठीक है. I'll check here क्या हो रहा है. So book one dot title, no error for this. Okay. I'll add printf again. Okay. See, I have added here two getters, and finally we will use this to enter price only. Okay, and I'll try to run this. For price, you have to use that ampersand, whereas for title and all these things, you don't require. Something wrong I have done. Okay, instead of this book one, P dot title, P dot author, um, title फिर से repeat. Okay, and P dot price. Okay, I'll run this one. Let us see. Has built it properly. Now I am not using that underscore flush all. So let me add title first. You need to press enter. So second string I'll enter here. And price. Okay. So something book one has not printed properly. The data of book one.
नहीं मैम, ये बुक वन प्रिंट नहीं हुआ है अभी। ये पहले
हाँ
तो जो अपन इनपुट के टाइम प्रिंट कर रहे थे ना, वो हुआ है, इंटर टाइटल, इंटर ऑथर एंड इंटर प्राइस।
हाँ उसके बाद डेटा भी प्रिंट हुआ है. So both
यस मैम।
both getters are working. This is not working because I think the वो कुछ शॉल की वजह से उसने गड़बड़ कर दी फिर. So that is what I trying to show you here. So let us see and try connector. It has been printed properly. That means complete ये पूरा word. आप जब भी पूरा line enter करते हो, you want to assign a particular line to getters. After that line, you have to press enter. So that enter तक का पूरा string it will assign to that title. Okay, are you doing the same thing?
यस मैम, बट आई विल चेक अगेन व्हाट वाज द प्रॉब्लम।
Because here both these getters are working, and I think you need to add this printf also after first getters. Okay, so maybe it will work. So here it is working properly, so there should not be any problem to use two getters one after another. It's as good as simultaneously one below another. Okay, it will work. So till this we have discussed, and that is what is the program. I have shown the output of the program. Next thing I wanted to discuss is how to pass this structure to an array. Here I think this is presented. Here we have discussed how to assign or how to get value from the user. And from this particular example, it might be clear that we can read individual structure member also. So like this, in this scanf, I'm only reading price. Using getters, I'm using reading only author and title. So individual member reading or scanning is also possible. Whereas you can initialize few members, like here only price can be initialized, and rest of the structure members can be taken as input through the user. Okay, so various ways are possible how to access individual member. So whenever you have to access individual member, you have to remember that it is always accessed using dot operator, and the whatever identifier we are using before dot, it always represents the structure variable, so that you need to declare first. And the second part, that is the second
एक्सक्यूज मी मैम,
identifier. Hmm,
मैम मैंने
please.
उसे इम्प्लीमेंट वापस किया बट वो स्किप हो रहा है.
क्या हो
देन
रहा है?
नेक्स्ट इटरेशन में वो एंटर ऑथर ऑफ द बुक जो मतलब ऑथर का इनपुट ले रहा है.
Hmm. ठीक है, मैं चेक करती हूँ आपका कोड. लेट मी फिनिश दिस,
ओके.
and then at the end we will go through your code. Okay, so this is how we can assign values to individual, or we can access individual member from that structure. I think these things, if it is clear to you, you can easily write the program and you can understand what exactly we are doing with this structure. Okay, so whenever we declare a structure and define a variable for that, so the representation of this variable. So whenever we define a structure, so that means we are creating a data type which occupies memory, that is decided based on uh, these three structure members. So it is decided based on whatever are the size of members it is. And when you declare a variable, so compiler will allocate memory for that particular structure. Okay, so that memory representation, I'll just show you how that memory representation will be. So here, for this P, the memory will be represented where your first is name, and for this name field 20 bytes will be allocated. Just उसका size और representation पे मत जाओ, but this complete name field occupies 20 consecutive bytes in memory. So year of joining, this YOJ, so it takes 4 bytes integer. We are assuming 4 bytes, and this is the last field, which is nothing but salary, so it requires 4 bytes. Okay, and uh, this complete structure, so this representation is named as P. Okay, so this is known as P, which is suppose if it is starting at memory location or address 1000, so your YOJ will be automatically, it will be stored at 1020, and will be at 1024. So this is how your structure members will be allocated memory in the system. Okay, so and this is what is the representation of that structure variable P, and individual can be accessed as P dot name. So automatically it will try to access that variable which is at location 1000. P dot YOJ, so it will access the value at location 1020 and so on. Okay, so this is what is the structure representation and the memory representation for your structure variable. Okay, so after that, today now we'll can pass this structure to a function. Okay, there are two ways again to pass this structure to a function. You can pass structure the individual structure members to the function, or you can pass this structure as uh, the whole structure at a time. Okay, So here I'll represent how to pass whole structure to that particular function. We will write a function called read, and through this read function actually we are trying to assign values to the structure member. Now remember, as I just now represented that structure representation in memory, I have drawn that structure representation in memory. So whenever you declare a variable, memory will be allocated, and when you pass that particular structure variable as an argument to a function, so copy of that will be done into another dummy variable. It's not that your dummy variable is taking reference. So we are copying complete structure. Okay. So here again it is nothing but here we have just we have defined the structure. Okay. So structure for student with fields roll number, name and marks. Okay. And this is the prototype that we'll discuss afterwards. Okay. Here we have declared a variable student, and whenever you are declaring student, so something like this, the memory will be allocated for this complete student. Okay. So this is what is the memory allocated for this student ST. Okay, with fields roll number, name and marks. Again the total size which is occupied by this complete variable is 20 plus 4 plus 4, that is 28 bytes will be reserved for this student or st variable. And this is where we are calling a function read, and to this read we are passing this variable st with the name of that variable, the st. Whatever variable you have declared, the same variable we are passing to this read, and through this read we are trying to initialize, or we are trying to get the values of this name, marks and roll number, name and marks. We want to read or initialize these three fields. So whenever you are calling this particular read function, so this value, student value, which is uninitialized right now, will be copied as it is to the student st. Okay. So it is nothing but it will be simply it is creating another dummy variable in your memory, and uninitialized copy will be just passed on to this s. And here in this function we are reading the s dot roll number, this field we are initializing, this field we are reading s dot name, and we are reading s dot marks. Okay. And once we have done this, enter a record scanf percent d percent s percent s f. So corresponding to d roll number we are reading, comma name, for name no ampersand, for marks we are putting that ampersand. S is the structure variable, and this marks, name and roll number are representing structure members. Okay. So this is how we are reading the structure members, but that is initialized for a dummy variable s. And if we want to update that for this particular structure student st, okay, that is if we want to update these values which are initialized through this read function, for the main function we need to return that whole structure. Okay. And that is possible. So this whole structure is now we are treating as a single variable, and that complete structure can be returned, can be assigned to this st field by field. So role will be copied into role, name get copied into name, and this marks get copied into marks. And this structure, so passing the same structure and actually assigning or reading whatever value it will return. So that return value is assigned, will be updated for this structure student. Okay. And here we are printing. So instead of printing now, can you just write here display? Now this is what is printing statement. The updated statement I have printed over here. Okay. But is it possible to write one more function display? So display is what? We are simply trying to update this value. Can Shall I show you how this particular function works, or what is the interpretation of this, or what things we have discussed? I'll just try to copy paste that program, or I think it might be there. I'll just check it out. Okay. Okay, I'll just copy paste that program here itself. Main, and this is will add the display function. Okay. So this is the structure that we have defined, and now we are just discussing passing structure to a variable. So structure to a function. So before passing structure to a function, you need to declare that structure variable, and structure variable is passed as an argument to a function. So this particular line is known as passing uh, structure to a function. Okay, so here we are passing structure variable or structure to a function. Okay, and this structure get copied into the structure variable into a dummy variable, or it is also called as formal variable, whereas this st is the actual variable. So actual variable which is uninitialized is getting copied into s, and that s is overwritten now using whatever values user will input, and we are returning that one. So whatever is s value, so this particular statement can be interpreted, you can interpret that as s is returned by that read. So s value is getting assigned to, is getting copied into a structure variable st. So whatever is value we have updated for s will be now copied onto st variable. Okay, so that is how this read or calling a function will be treated, and here we are printing that particular variable. Okay, now I'll execute and I'll show you what we have discussed or how that particular read function works. So when I execute here, before this call to read function, there is nothing. Okay, I need to add that underscore flush all. And there itself now we'll modify this function to add display function also. Okay, I'll run this program, and the first line that I'll get is enter a record, and the sequence is first roll number, name and marks. So in main we are calling this read function. Before that there is no printf and all those things, so that means automatically the control has passed to this function, where from this read function enter a record has been displayed, and that record consists the first field. Corresponding to first field we have 20 number, so name, that and marks for that particular field. Okay, these are the marks, and this is what once scanf has been executed, that means we have initialized all the structure member corresponding to variable s, and that s is returned, which is now assigned to st. And here we are not writing s dot roll, but it will be st dot roll, st dot name, st dot marks, and those st dot name and roll marks are nothing but whatever values we have entered, we have scanned through a read function. Okay, so this is how you can pass the complete structure uh, to a function. Okay, similarly, we can call here display function. So display will be void. We are not modifying any values from this structure variable. We are trying to simply access those values and we want to display that thing. Okay. So in that case, your display will be called like display st. That means this function is not returning any value. So return type will be void. Function name is display and the parameter that we are passing is the structure data type. Here our structure data type is nothing but it's a student. Okay, so this is this structure data type that we have created using typedef. Okay, and if you are not using typedef, you are using struct student. So this student should not be here, and here we need to write this every time as struct student. Like this, you need to represent your prototype for a function, and while defining that particular function, you need to here also you need to include that struct student. Okay, every time you need to make use of that keyword struct if the type def is not existing. Okay, and student in that case is represented as the structure name, not here. Okay, so just keep in mind these things, few things. Okay, so as we are using type def, we are directly using the data type that we have created for this structure. Okay, directly it will be passed, it will be represented as students. So just like we are writing their integer float, we are defining or representing that prototype by passing or by using student as the data type. Okay. These are the prototype for read and display, and this prototype or function can be defined like now for display we will write a function. Okay, otherwise I'll just type here, it will be void display. Now what is the parameter that we are passing is the structure type, which is represented by word student, and for the student you have to define some variable s. Okay, and now I have to define the functionality of this display. The functionality of displays, we have to simply print the record. So printf write only a single statement, that is %d. I'll write here something like this so that you can differentiate between the first the printf in main and printf in display function. Then name equals to %s, and the third field is marks. So marks equals to %f, and corresponding to these three, my variables will be s dot role, s dot name. Here the variable that we have used is s. So st values get copied into s, and now we are trying to print the s dot marks, s dot name, and s dot role. So while printing, there is no need of using ampersand, and if by mistake if you are writing that ampersand, if you are putting that ampersand, then it will give you address of this role. Okay, it will display address of variable or member role of variable s. So I have added display function. I'll run this again. Okay. Now we'll enter record, which is uh, going to read function. So this is what as we have called display function. Okay. So 78 point something garbage we are getting, I think. No. Okay, 56 has been just converted into the complete float range. Okay. So this is what we are getting for till this 98. And this display, and just add the slash n so that it also be displayed to the next line. Okay. So roll number and same values I'll enter. See here, it has converted this 56 is just converted to nearest value, and that has been displayed. So the first display is from a function called display, and second this displays execution of this printf statement. Okay, so this is how you can make use of function call, or you can directly use printf statement. Functions are required whenever we have to perform various operations, and in every operation we want to display your array after your structure variables after performing some operations on that. Okay, so this is all about how to pass your structure to a function. So any doubt till this whatever we have discussed? Yes, anybody is having any doubt in this? How to pass structure variable to a function,
No,
and
ma'am.
No, ma'am.
and okay, and how to return a structure variable from a function, and how to read that return variable. So whatever discussion we had done till now, that is applicable only for a single variable. Okay, single structure variable. Okay, now I want to create a database. Okay, so I want to here create a student database, something like this. I want to implement this complete table. Okay, so which consists of various fields, and we have to perform operations like search a record, modify a record, insert a record, and delete a record. So in that particular case, my table, which is represented with these fields, role, name, and marks. Okay, so how to implement this particular table using your structure? Okay, so what we are doing initially is that whatever structure we have created, for example, we have created student. Okay, and for that student, I have defined a variable st. So this is representing a single row, and if I have to read like this record for 60 student, or suppose for your class if I assumed is for 59 students. Okay, so it's not possible for us to declare all these 59 variables like S1, S2, S3. We cannot go for declaring like 59 variables, and it's not easy to add those many scanf. Okay, so instead of that, there is a concept called as array of structure. So instead of single variable, now I'm defining a variable in terms of array. So instead of this st, I'll make it as array of 100 students. That means now I can add like this 100 records. Okay, so I can create a record for 100 students, where again the indexing for that particular table starts from 0. So this is something 0, 1, 2, 3, and this will be your last record will be at the 99th position. Okay, so your roll numbers can be random, I think, or it can be just you can consider it as 1 to 100, for example. So name can be anything. Okay, so these are the names for the student, and some marks you can be represented for this particular table. So this is how your record will be. And now that complete table we have represented, this complete table is represented a single variable student, but now instead of a single variable it is representing collection of records. Okay, it's an array of records. So this complete line is representing a record of particular student. Okay, so this is called as record, and these are the fields of that particular table: roll number, name, and marks. So all these are representing fields of the tables, and these fields of the tables we are defining as the structure member. Okay, so that we have already discussed. Now how to interpret this index? So when you define size like this, maximum 100 records I can add to this table. Okay, and when I access, or this particular record is represented as st of 0, the next is st of 1, so this is st of 2, and this will be st of 99. Okay, so this is how individual record will be. Now you can simply interpret this instead of simply st, which is representing a single record. Now I have to use that st along with some index value. Okay, so which is representing the third record from this table. The interpretation of this st in 2 is nothing but I'm trying to access this particular record from a table. Okay, and if I just add again a dot operator and put here name, which is the field of that structure, so this is acting as your structure variable. Okay, so structure variable, and this is your structure member. Okay, so this is the structure member, and interpretation of this particular statement is that I'm trying to access the name field of the third record, or here if we go with the number, I'm trying to access the name field of the second record for a variable st. So this complete table is represented, is known by a name st, whereas the index value is representing which particular record you are trying to access. Okay. Now the main question is how to build, how to create this one, how to initially assign or enter all these table values, all this complete information into your array of structure. Okay, so this is how we can declare array of structure. And once you declare this array of structure, the next thing is to initialize this array of structure. Okay, so that can be done. Now we will discuss that how we can write, or I'll modify here itself. Okay, so how we can modify that one, or how we can go for array of structure. Okay, so now instead of single structure variable, I have to define the array size. Okay, which can be the maximum. Again, similar to your integer float array, you can get actual count first and then you can declare this array. First thing, you need to declare your structure. Okay, so you have to define, you need to first decide what are the structure members. Okay, so what is the data type you are creating for that structure, and based on that, now we have created here array of structure. This line is called as array of structure, and now I have to get initialize this array of structure. Now as you can interpret this, this is array. Okay, and when you are using this array, okay, when I am passing or trying to access this array using a name st, so what this st is representing, st from this array of 100 records. So the interpretation of this st is again, it's an address of the first record. Okay, suppose this first record is at location 1000. So based on the size, that is 4 plus 20 plus 4, that is 28. Your next record will be at 10, 20. And when you are using, if you are going for pointer, when you perform that, or whenever you are trying to represent st of 1, okay, so automatically the compiler will start reading values from this 1028 onwards. Okay, so next 28 bytes will be read whenever you are trying to use this st of 1. Okay, so that is what I want to just tell you, that we are passing here, we are passing this structure name st to a function, which is nothing but we are passing address of the first record. So automatically we are passing reference of this table. Okay, and hence it is as good as passing array to a function. Need not have to, after modifying this complete or after entering these values, you need not have to return that structure. That structure will be automatically updated for the actual value st. So initially we are passing only single structure, and hence we need to return that one. Now, as we are passing here the whole array as an argument to this read function, and now that array is array of structures. Okay, and hence it will be it is taking reference of the first record, and that is treated as call by reference, and hence automatically actual structure array is getting modified. Okay, even though you are modifying that read function here, even though you are modifying this s, now s will take reference of your st array of structure. It's a array variable of type structure. Okay, and hence it is taking reference. So even though we are modifying this s, that modification will reflect change in st. Okay, just remember this. Whenever you are dealing with array of structure, you are passing that array of structure as an argument to a function. So any change in that variable through a function will also reflect or will also change the value of actual variable, structure variable that you are passing to a function. Okay, so that means even though I'm modifying, I'm reading here values of s automatically. So those values are getting stored at a location. So at a location that is where actually your st has been created. Okay, so that is the main or important point to note in this passing array to a function. Okay, and hence the modifications here is will be void. Okay, so and as it is array now, the change will be, so here you can write here enter row, just for understanding, write here the field names. Okay, and how many, okay, apart from this, now you need to pass one more variable to this function. Okay, which is nothing but the number of actual records that you want to read. Okay, I have not initialized that n value in main function. That means we have to read it in this function read. Okay, we have to get the value of n also here. Okay, so this n, okay, I'll make it m. The value of n will be copied into m. Okay, and before this printf, I'll first get the value of m. Printf percent printf enter number of records, how many records you want to enter. I'll just write in short number of records. Okay, and based on that, so it's not underscore flush all, and we will read here the value of m. Scanf percent d, comma, ampersand n. This is what. And now the additional thing, now instead of single record, m records we want to scan. So you have to add here for loop. Just tell me if you not get what I'm writing over and just discuss it once again the completing. Okay, so this is what we are trying to initialize our whole array of structure through this function. Okay, so this for loop has been added, and to keep track of that so I should come with this s of index and then remember. So it is as good as we are trying to s of 0 dot role, s of 0 dot name. That means trying to access xxy or trying to assign this value at this particular location. So st of 0 dot marks means adding 60 to this location. Okay. So that is what is interpretation of this scanf, and adding that you need to add ampersand s of I dot role. Again here no and address of symbol. So it will be simply s of I dot name, and here uh, that address of s of I dot marks. So this is what is the complete scanf. No need of return. So automatically it is returning the whole array to the called function. Okay. Here we are calling that particular function. ST will be updated. Okay. But what about this n? What about n value? Whether that n which is known to this or have declared here will automatically get updated will be the uh, what do you think what will be the output of this particular program? I'll just modify this display and I'll show you what happens exactly. Okay. So here we are now uh, modifying, we are writing here display function, to which again we are trying to whatever we have assigned values to this st through this read function, we are trying to display those values. Okay. And hence again you need to make modify this to array, comma, here m representing number of elements. Okay. Instead of enter, we are displaying these values. Okay. Roll number, name, and mass we are trying to display. Okay. So this is the for loop that is used to display our variable slash t and slash t. Okay. And instead of scanf, now it should be printf. Printf print the values of roll number. So again s of 0 dot roll, s of 0 dot name, s of 0 dot mark. And that I will be changed to 1, s of 1 dot roll, s of 1 dot name, s of 1 dot marks will be printed. On how many records you have entered for. Again here we need to add that variable I, integer I. Okay. So I'll show you complete program first and then we will execute this one. Here we have now learned a new concept which is called as array of structure. Now we want to get the values for this array of structure from the user, and for that we have defined here read function, to which we are passing this st and number of records for that particular structure array. Similarly, we are trying to display the same thing. No need of printf, and this is end of main function. Okay. So
एक्सक्यूज मी
read.
मैम
हाँ बोलो.
मैम बट एन तो इनिशियलाइज्ड ही नहीं है ना गार्बेज वैल्यू है अभी तो उसके अंदर एंड अपन उसे पास बाय वैल्यू कर रहे हैं।
Yes, exactly.
तो मैम इंस्टेड ऑफ दैट अगर सीधे रीड में अपन इनपुट ले रहे हैं एम का, तो यहाँ से एन पास करने की जरूरत ही नहीं है।
अगर रीड में ले रहे हैं, still you need to pass that n value so that you can read those many records or you can get size of that.
मैम बट
Hmm.
यहाँ पे
Hmm.
अगर अपन पास कर रहे हैं तो पास बाय वैल्यू कर रहे हैं ना। अगर
Pass
पास
by
बाय
value.
रेफरेंस कर रहे होते तो मतलब होता करने का।
Exactly. तो एक तो जैसे आप बोल रहे हो, आई नीड टू रीड हियर इटसेल्फ एंड नीड टू पास दैट वैल्यू, ओके। बट मैं वो नहीं कर रही हूँ बिकॉज ठीक है, फॉर रीड एंड डिस्प्ले के लिए आप वो कर सकते हो, बट व्हेन आई हैव टू इंसर्ट और डिलीट, अगेन योर नंबर ऑफ रिकॉर्ड्स आर गोइंग टू बी चेंज्ड, ओके। So exactly this is what I'm expecting from you, okay? And मुझे आंसर नहीं आया था, that is why I'm going to execute this and then going to modify your program, okay? So इसमें दो things हो सकते हैं, either I can read the 10 value, I can take this in main function itself and I can pass the value of n
मैम और
which can
वन
be
वन
used.
मोर थिंग,
Mhm.
वी कैन पास एन बाय रेफरेंस एंड यहाँ पे
Exactly,
एन पे रीड कर सकते हैं ना। तो
exactly.
वैल्यू मतलब अपने पास रहेगी।
The same thing. Actually, what we are doing through read function, we are modifying the value of actual variable n, and we have already studied the call by reference. So here, as m is getting modified, and this modified value we want to update for this n. So in that case, you can pass the address of n so that even though you are modifying this m, n will be updated. And to read this reference, your m should be a pointer.
पॉइंटर वेरिएबल।
Okay? And when you define this m as a pointer variable, so while reading this scanf, it should not be ampersand, it will be simply m. What this m represents, it's an address of n. So at that particular value, we are updating this value of pointer n. Okay. So actually this is how I want to implement. Okay. As n is uninitialized, we are initializing that through read, but if we are using call by value, n will be uninitialized and m will remain. So n will be uninitialized, only the local variable m corresponding to read will be modified. And just to avoid that, we are using here call by reference only for read, because only in read we are modifying the value of m, and that is modified or that is done by passing reference here also for n. Okay, and to read that reference you need to declare a pointer variable, and whenever you are using that pointer variable to get that value, it should be simply m, whereas in for loop it should be value. Here we want to point out the location in scanf, so it will be location of n. So writing m is nothing but it is as good as indirectly it is taking location of n. Okay? But we cannot write there. It should be m, and here in loop it should be star m. Value of m. Okay? That is value at address of n. And this is complete read statement is, and display pass reference of that n, because here we are not changing, we are simply using the value of n. Okay, and here call by value. Okay, and this is what is your display function. So this is what we have discussed, is how to create a table, how to create a database, and how to display the fields from that particular table. Now I'll just execute this program, and even for this for loop, okay, within this for loop you need to add underscore again. So you cannot put that here. You should take that flush all for loop. See here, many of you might be knowing all these things, but there are few things that you need to remember. And what I observed is, So repeatedly telling this flush all, most of you are skipping that flush all and telling that your Eclipse is not working. Okay. So please remember before every scanf, if you're using scanf within for loop, we have to execute these two lines underscore flush all and scanf for every iteration. And hence that flush all should be within for loop and you need to add then brackets. Okay. So I'll just update again this not updated debug getting cross. So delete this debug folder. Okay. And just again I'll update here. So this is okay. Still I'm getting error because we have not modified that pointer here. Okay. So it is pointer and this is simply integer variable. So prototype also you need to modify representing your second variable is a pointer variable. Okay. Now it has updated correctly and number of records. I'll just read two records here. Enter roll number, name and marks. Okay. So two times we have to enter this. Okay. So and marks and this is how your display. So this is what as we have executed your read function. Read में क्या है? Enter number of records. I entered 2. We have scanned that one through this printf and for loop. So this for loop star m is nothing but now it's 2 and twice your this loop has been executed to get these two records. These two records are entered by user and same thing has been displayed through your display function. Roll name marks, and these are the records that we have entered. Okay. So this is how we can create and display your student database. Okay. Or any database now you must be able to create. It can be employee database. It can be student. It can be book bank. It can be bank details, savings, okay, all your bank account details or the employee what customers record related to your bank. So any sort of table representation can be represented or any database can be represented and handled using your structures and array of structures. So any doubt till this? So today we have learned how to pass array to a structure, array variable to a structure. Okay. How to create an array of structure and how to pass that array of structure to a function and how to write a function to create a database. So this read is nothing but it's a function to create a database. Okay. So it's a function to create a database and this is a function to display your database. Okay. The whole database we have displayed using this display function. Okay. So this is what is your creating, that is assigning values, entering the records, making entry of records in a table through your read function and simply accessing those record and displaying using display function. So any doubt? This is actually important concept that we have learned today. Okay. And this is what is half part of your experiment number 3 we have done. So apart from that, we have to perform various other operations that we will cover on Monday. Okay. So if you are having any doubts, you can ask. Otherwise, we will stop for today. Okay.
एक्सक्यूज मी मैम,
हाँ बोलो.
मैम आप प्रॉब्लम रेक्टिफाई करेंगे क्या एक बार?
हाँ करेंगे ना करेंगे. Okay. Now I have downloaded the attendance. Those who want to leave may leave the class. And if anybody is having any doubt and want to discuss, you can discuss with me. So Abhi, I'll give you rights. You can share your program and I'll check. Share your code. थोड़ा और मैक्सिमाइज करो। तो गेट टेस्ट इसमें नहीं हो रहा है। सिंगल record you are reading, no? Yes. Enter author of book. Getting? हो तो रहा है। अच्छा, टाइटल में क्या? योर माइक इज, यू अनम्यूट योर माइक अभी।
हेलो
हाँ,
मैम, ये
टाइटल
टाइटल आ ही
पहले
नहीं
ही
रहा है।
गाने पहले ये कर रहे हो
मैंने
और
एफ गेटिस भी यूज किया बट उससे भी नहीं हो रहा है, सेम इशू आ रहा है।
नहीं, टाइटल कहाँ पे एंटर किया है आपने?
मैम टाइटल एंटर ही नहीं किया ना, उसने इनपुट का पूछा ही नहीं है।
अच्छा, वो स्किप कर रहा है।
यस मैम।
एक बार फिर से रन करो, देखने तो क्या हो रहा है। तो क्रिएट अकाउंट एक्सेशन नंबर, ओके।
देन यहाँ पर एक वार्निंग आता है गेटिस के लिए।
इट इज विच इज अनसेफ।
मैंने ये जो एफ गेटिस है ना मैम, मैंने उसे भी यूज किया
हाँ, नहीं
बट
एफ
उसमें भी इशू यही आ रहा है कि स्किप हो
फॉर,
रहा है वो फर्स्ट।
नहीं एफ गेट एस इज फॉर इसके लिए, फाइल का रीडिंग के लिए।
नहीं मैम, इनपुट भी हो रहा है उससे।
नहीं, लेकिन एफ यूजुअली यूज टू रीड और टू असाइन
यस मैम,
वैल्यू।
बट यहाँ पे स्टैंडर्ड इन यूज कर रहे हैं, दैट्स
हाँ
व्हाई वो टर्मिनल से ले पा रहा है।
हाँ, सही है। ओके,
ये यहाँ पर नेम ऑफ द बुक का इनपुट मतलब स्किप हो रहा है।
यहाँ पे दो स्ट्रिंग नहीं ले रहा है क्या वो?
यस मैम, मतलब वो
अगर
स्किप ही हो रहा है फर्स्ट वाला तो।
दो बार स्ट्रिंग अगर एंटर किया तो
दो
यू
स्ट्रिंग
विल।
कैसे एंटर किया? नहीं मैम, वो ले ही नहीं रहा। जैसे अगर एक स्ट्रिंग अपन ने एंटर किया, देन एंटर किया तो प्राइस ऑफ बुक पे आ जाता है, मतलब नेक्स्ट इनपुट पे आ जाता है वो।
चार काउंट टाइटल। एक बार मुझे स्ट्रक्चर दिखाओ आपका।
यस मैम। हाँ मेरा।
टाइटल, ऑथर, प्राइस एंड एक्सेशन नंबर। एक बार पहले गेटस करके फिर वो परसेंट डी वाला स्कैन नीचे लिया तो
हम क्या करना है?
एंटर एक्सेशन नंबर जो लिखा था ना, वो से
हाँ,
प्रिंटफ, वो प्रिंटफ स्कैन हम एंड में डिफाइन करते हैं।
सेकंड। टाइटल ऑथर प्राइस,
हाँ
टाइटल ऑथर प्राइस, वन सेकंड। हम बट यहाँ पे तो इंडिविजुअली एक्सेस कर रहे हैं ना एलिमेंट्स को।
हाँ, एक्चुअली इंडिविजुअली कर रहे हैं, लेकिन जस्ट विल ट्राई दैट की।
ओके, वन सेकंड। ये मैम
नहीं हो
स्किप
रहा
हो
है,
रहा है।
skip हो रहा है। हम्म,
स्कैनफ से हो रहा है बट वो वही है कि
हाँ
एक ही वर्ड ले सकते हैं इनपुट में।
हाँ, एक ही वर्ड ले सकते हो आप। हम्म, ठीक है, देखना पड़ेगा मुझे, क्योंकि ये वो विंडोज में नहीं आता प्रॉब्लम। हियर इट इज वर्किंग फाइन एज ए शो We have already gone through that and it was working. ठीक है, I need to check that one.
Okay.
आप देखो. And if I found something, I'll just message you. Okay?
Okay.
I'll check that. F get S से क्या हो रहा है?
मैम एफगेटेस से मतलब मैंने ऑल्टरनेटिव सर्च किए थे इसके गेटेस के,
हम्म
तो उसमें कहा था कि गेटेस जो है वो कितनी भी मतलब जैसे कैरेक्टर आ रहे अपन ने डिफाइन किया 20 कैरेक्टर्स का,
हम्म
तो उससे ज्यादा भी वो इनपुट ले सकता है, इसलिए वो बफर ओवरफ्लो ओवरफ्लो हो जाता है
हाँ
अगर ज्यादा इनपुट दे देते हैं अपन तो। दैट्स व्हाई एफ गेटिस में ये हो रहा है कि यहाँ पे अपन जिसमें इनपुट लेना है अपन ने वो वेरिएबल डाला है,
हम्म
एंड देन उसका लेंथ डाला है
F
कि
get
कितने
S.
मैक्सिमम
हाँ
लिमिट डाला है,
ओके.
एंड यहाँ पर स्टैंडर्ड इनपुट से अपन इनपुट ले रहे हैं।
लेकिन वो वर्क होता है कि नहीं होता, वही मैं
हम
पूछ.
उसमें भी ये इशू आ रहा है कि स्किप हो रहा है फर्स्ट वाला,
ओके.
वर्क होता है बट वो फर्स्ट वाला
तो
स्किप हो रहा है, उसमें
तो
इशू
आप
यही आ रहा
ऐसे करो, एक F get S करो, देन स्कैन एफ दूसरा ले लो, फिर
है।
एफ
ओके,
गेट एस करो, फिर से परसेंट डी वाला स्कैन एफ लेके देखो एक बार. वो शायद इट्स समथिंग रिलेटेड टू योर मेमोरी बफर ओनली, जैसे हम फ्लश ऑल यूज करते हैं इक्लिप्स में, वैसे कुछ तो चाहिए which will create your memory, which will create the buffer register basically. तो उसके लिए भी फंक्शन ढूंढना पड़ेगा which
ये मैम इस
is
एक 1 सेकंड।
applicable. अच्छा, यहाँ पे भी स्किप हो रहा है वो. इफ गेट से पहले
अभी ऑथर स्किप हो रहा है।
ठीक है, I'll check this.
ओके,
ठीक है, I'll end this meeting. We will meet on Monday to continue this topic.